Set up. I'm finally back and hopefully for good this time. I'm gonna use this video today to explain why I was MIA. So this will probably be more like a kind of like a podcast style where you may just want to hear me out. It's pretty interesting, I would think. Haven't really talked about it out loud other than to some friends, little bits of the story. I'm going to try and cover everything. Long story short, I own my shop. All right. I bought it. It was a kind of a long process, but finally got to the finish line yesterday, and we closed. And now I can talk about everything that happened because there was a fight with my landlord. Lawyers were involved. He sold this property to somebody else, and it was just a big mess, right? And so let me try and kind of start from the beginning, because I'm also going to talk about how good of a year I'm having. This is like the best year business-wise, financially, I've ever had. I've tried to compare it so I guess my top 3 years have been 2024, so this year, 2021, and 2022. So those are like my top three best years as far as like profit. Not necessarily talking about revenue, although I'll be pretty interested to see which one had the most revenue and the most profit. Although figuring out which one was the most profitable, I'll be able to see that on paper. But the thing is, 21 and 22, all those profits they were great years, but a lot of that went back to basically repaying me back for all of the all the debt, collateral that I put myself in, to grow this business. And those great years I used to kind of get myself back, like my personal stuff back in order, you know what I mean? So it was kind of hard to see that profit because as it was coming in, as I was saving it, I was paying off, a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? So fast forward to 2024. So this year, I don't know, early on in the year, I talked about how, hey, there's some stuff going on with the landlord. He's trying to kick me out or whatever. I had to go easy on what I was talking about there because I couldn't really say what I really wanted to because they didn't have to sell it to me. Do you know what I mean? And they were already pissed off with me. So I had to be careful what I was saying out there because they were already pissed. And I'll tell you guys about it here in a second. But November of last year, so 12 months ago, I'm hanging Christmas lights. And my landlord calls me and says, hey, I just sold the property. The new owner, hear him out. But there's going to be a new owner. And I'm like, dude, you didn't even give me a chance. You didn't even tell me you were selling. I would love to have tried to buy this place. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. I'm sorry about that. You can make an offer. I mean, I haven't committed to this buyer, so you can make an offer, And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's November. You know what I mean? So yeah, I have some money then, but I'm going into winter. So that was like my winter fund, which would technically be like a deposit if I actually went through with it then. And I just couldn't think about that because there's no way. I've got winter coming up. I've got the snow. I got these workers. I can't, there's just no way. I wasn't in a good financial place to just all of a sudden to try and buy this place. So I just kind of said, what the hell, And by the way, I did make an offer, but my landlord made it sound like the sale wasn't going to go through with the other people anyway. So, you probably don't have anything to worry about because not only were they selling my property, they're selling pretty much the whole block as one sale. So the buyer had to buy everything except for my landlord was like, well, for you, I'll let you buy 4 properties instead of the whole block. And I'm like, well, damn, that's a lot of money still. But whatever. So the fact that somebody had to buy the whole entire block, which is a big block, it's big, it's huge. Um, I thought, well, there's a chance it's not going to sell that fast, you know. So I'm probably going to be fine. So I just kind of like went along my business like normal. Anyway, so fast forward to February. I'm in Arizona at a mastermind meeting, and I get a phone call from my general manager, and she says, "Hey, this guy named Sam keeps calling, and he's basically asking about the business and when are we leaving and this and that." And I'm like, "What the hell?" So I called my landlord and say, "Hey, so what's going on? Who's this Sam guy?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy that's buying it. And by the way, anyway, that's the guy that's buying it. Answer all his questions." So I call him. I call this guy Sam, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Hey, I'm buying the property, and everybody on that block that I'm buying is on a month-to-month contract. So when are you leaving?" And I said, "I'm not leaving, and I'm not on a month-to-month contract. I'm on a contract until 2026. So that would be a 6 year. I was on a 6 year lease, so I'm not going anywhere." And I started to get frustrated and let him know that. By this point, there was a couple of back and forths already. That wasn't like the first call. So at this point, I already had a lawyer who kind of was looking into it. He looked at my lease, and I even had a realtor look at my lease, and they both were like, "Hey, you're here until 26. So even if they sell the property, you can stay until 26." But that's what my lawyer and my realtor are saying. So anyway, so at this point, I'm pretty confident when I call this guy who's buying the property, and I say, "Hey," I go, "I don't have to leave. I'm on a 6 year lease and it ends in 26. So I don't know what you guys are talking about." And he's like, "Hold on." So he calls me back like 2 days later, and he's like, "Dude, um, contingency on this sale of us buying everything that we signed is that everybody's on a month to month. So this kind of screws everybody up because we signed a purchase agreement with the idea that everybody's on a month to month." Anyway, I talked to my lawyer, and he's like, "Don't worry, you don't need to talk to them anymore. I can just talk to them from now on." And anyway, this guy Sam, he's being really cool. I understand where he's coming from. I'm putting myself in his shoes right from the start. He's buying something, and he's like, "Hey, supposedly everybody's on a month to month." So I don't blame him. I blame the owner for being super unorganized, you know? And this is stuff I wanted to say early on in the, with this process when you guys saw that I was like, "Hey, I can't really talk about what's going on, but I'm stressed the hell out." He's super unorganized, okay? Because I'm very organized. So when I see somebody that's like selling this big multi-million-dollar project, and they don't even know that there's some tenants that are on a 6 year lease, and they're selling this thing with the agreement that everybody's on a month to month, it really infuriates me because how do you not know that? So anyway, that caused the seller and the buyer to kind of, have this kind of argument like, "Dude, we need to get this people out of here. We need to get this company out of here, or I don't think we can make the sale." Because first of all, there's a lot that goes into it. My rent was dirt cheap because when they first rented this place, it was a single family house, one lot. And so it was like the rent was like super cheap. And then they added the neighbor's house because remember, the owner owns the whole block. So then he added the neighbor's house, and he demolished the house and commercialized 2 lots. So now it's an acre. And because it was like, I want to say 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, the rents were still super cheap. You know what I mean? And this is like an old building. This building is from 1916. So it was like, it is remodeled. So it is, the inside's nice. The outside still looks like it's 1916. So bottom line is the rents were cheap, and I'm in a 6-year lease, and the new buyer is like, dude, if we buy those properties, we're not going to make any money. I mean, we're going to be losing money. The mortgage is going to be way 3 times more than Long Thumbs is paying rent. So again, I see their situation, but it's not my problem, right? I have a lease. And not only that, the owner is like a real stickler about things. I mean, every time I had an issue with plumbing or something, he'd say, hey, it's in your lease that I don't have to deal with that, so that's your problem. Basically, just like that. And now that he needs something from me, he thinks I'm just gonna like re-sign a new lease. I'm like, no, that's the lease agreement. I'm not going anywhere. So anyway, it started to get to where they realized they may have to take me to court to try and get me out of here. And me and my lawyer are like, it's going to be expensive because I've got to fight it, but I'm going to fight it because I have no choice. I have 20 trucks. It's not that easy to find a shop for 20 trucks. You know what I mean? And believe me, once we found out in February, when I got that first phone call from the new buyer for me to get out of here, of course I started looking, just because, I got to have a plan B, right? Oh, shit. So I've got to have a plan B, so I'm looking around. Guess what? We find nothing that's for sale. The only place I found that was kind of like a big enough area for 20 trucks was the south farthest end of my service area, and it's a very rural city, and it's just so far away from my major big population of customers. You know what I mean? So that to me wasn't like a really good option. Believe it or not, the only place I found that was for rent was big enough. It was probably too big, but the owners of that property said that I could sublease, but the rent on that one was $10,000 a month. And remember, we moved in here in this place when rents were cheap. I'm talking cheap, but that was the normal, right? It was $1,800 what I was paying, and that was what my lease was, $1,800. So fast forward all these years later, everything's so expensive. You know what I mean? And anyway, and one more thing, my shop is in the middle of the last growing city. Like, we're surrounded by these cities that are growing huge, like crazy big. And then now they're both sides are encroaching onto my city, and I'm right in the heart of downtown of this city that I'm in. So it's like the best location. You know what I mean? I couldn't ask for better location. In fact, I'm right in the middle. If you drive 20 miles north, that's the farthest service area. That's where my service area ends. If you go 20 miles south, that's where my service area ends. So I'm right in the middle of my service area, and it's perfect. And so it's like really hard to find normal price property that's commercial in this city. In fact, you can't even make anything more commercial anymore. You probably can, super expensive, all kinds of permits, I don't know, but I've called realtors, and they said some locations that were for sale that were like single family units, they can't be commercialized because they're too close to residentials. Whereas since this owner owned the whole block, there wasn't any houses next to us. They were able to commercialize this 4 years ago or 5 years ago. So anyway, we're just in the best situation that you could think of, and I can't find any property if I've got to move out of here anywhere. So I have to fight it. You know what I mean? I have to. And if I have to fight it just to stay here until 2026, at least I could save up enough to put a big down payment on something that I could afford it by then, you know what I mean? But right now, it's really hard. Things are really expensive. They're really hard to find. There was a couple of places that we were looking into, and they were already sold, or at least put serious buyers. So it was like, dude, this is we got to fight this thing. So we started getting into it. The owner wanted me to sign a new lease with a higher price for no reason. Just wanted me to sign it. He just brought it to the shop one day and he's like, "Here, I need you to sign this." And I'm like, "What is it? I'm not signing that." And he's like, "Yeah, it's a new lease agreement that you'll be out in a year. And by the way, your rent's gonna go up $1,000, or actually, it was only $500." And I'm like, "No, man, I'm not signing that. I'm not signing that. I have no reason to sign that." Anyway, they've been trying to push me out since, really trying hard to push me out since probably April. Trying to find every loophole they can to get me out of here. They finally figured out that because I took over the lease from somebody else, a good friend of mine, I just re-signed the lease at the bottom that was already signed by my friend who was the original tenant here, and the owner signed it too, and I just signed it at the end as well. So all three of our signatures were there. The owner was there when I signed. The old tenant was there when I signed. I signed. We all, like me and my friend, kind of assumed I'm now the tenant here, and that's the end of it. Great. Well, now that they're trying to push me out, by the way, I won the whole thing. So don't want to what is it called? Give the story away, but I just don't want anybody who just tunes in to think that I'm going through this now. I'm just replaying what I went through. I signed their lease. So now, fast forward all this time, they're trying to get me out of here. They realize that the old tenant still has the authority to get out of the lease. So if the old tenant says, "I want to get out of here, I'm giving you my 30-day notice," then I have to leave as well. So what they did was they called the old tenant, who's still my great friend, calls him up and says, "Hey, just so you know, you're liable for anything that the new tenant," his name is Freddie, because he didn't know that I knew him very well. He's like, this new tenant, Freddie, you're liable for anything if he defaults on anything, and you'll have to pay it. So, but in order for you to not be involved with it at all, I need you to sign this sheet of paper that says that you are, giving your 30-day notice and to terminate the lease." So he says, "Oh man, well, I'm not signing anything without talking to Freddie. Thank goodness. Thank goodness." So he calls me and says, "Hey, the owner just called me and told me this. Are you default on anything?" And I go, "No, they're trying to kick me out of here. They're trying to find any way to get rid of me so they could sell this property to somebody, because they've told them that everybody's on a month-to-month. And so they signed a purchase agreement with that being in there, and I'm screwing it all up for them because I can't just go anywhere. I can't just pick up my stuff and go somewhere. This is too much, So thank goodness he doesn't sign. And so I bring that up to my lawyer. My lawyer's calling them, and my lawyer calls them, and it's just like, "Dude, you can't do this, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, this goes on till April, May. It starts to get really nasty in May. I get an eviction notice in May, and they're threatening to take me to what do you call it, renters court or something like that, because they said, anyway, so I give that to my lawyer, and that's when I had to have a meeting with my lawyer, and he sits down with me in person and says, "Look, this is what's going to happen," and he lays out everything. He basically, gave me the index card of everything that's going to happen from that moment, whether it's good or bad. He gave me all directions. So I knew what to expect in 1 week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks. But at the bottom line is you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay, and it's going to be, you're looking at the high end $15,000 for this. And I'm like, shit, let's do it. I got no choice, whatever. So anyway, this is going on back and forth, him and the lawyers trying to get me so we're not going to court, but there's a deadline that's going to happen, and then we got to go to court. And basically, right before the final deadline for us all to go to court, the two lawyers are talking, and one of the lawyers says to the other one, like their lawyer said to my lawyer, well, I guess our next step is we're going to court, and because your client doesn't have the authority to be there. So my lawyer relays that to me, and something inside me just clicked. Like, how do I not have authority to be here? It's not like, I've been paying rent with a check, my Long Thumb's business for, 3 years? What do you mean I don't have authority to be here? So I start thinking, and the next thing you know, I'm like, I type in his name in my email search history, the owner, and I have one email from him, one, in 3 years. It was from the day before I signed this lease here. And I needed to show him, in order to take over my friend's lease, I had to show him all my financials, okay? I had to show him my bank accounts. I actually had to take screenshots of my bank accounts and send it to him. And I did that. And then he replied to that email and said, Freddie, I approve you to be there because you show that you're financially savvy or something like that. So I approve you to take over the lease. That was it. That was it. And that email, I remembered about that. If I would have remembered that email right at the beginning, it would have been a much smoother thing, but I forgot about it because I never emailed I forgot that I ever emailed the owner. Like, we never communicated through email once I was in here, ever. It was always through text. So I just forgot about that. But when he said, you're not authorized to be there, that's when it clicked in me. I'm like, dude, of course I'm authorized to be here. I would never just move into a place without being approved. So I sent that to my lawyer, and from that moment, everything changed. The next day or whatever, the next business day, I get a phone call. Hey, Freddie, what do you want? Just like that. What do you want? And so by this point, me and my lawyers have already been trying to figure it out. Like, we already kind of thought we were going to win if we did go to court. So we had already thought about what we're going to ask for already anyway. But, there was 50-50 chance we weren't going to win, whatever. But once we had that email, it was game over. There was nothing anybody could do because that was definitely the proof that I was authorized to be here and that the lease agreement was for me, not the old tenant. So then they started asking me what I want. So basically what I said was, I want to have first right of refusal to buy this place. And this is how much I want to pay for it. Obviously, I had to be realistic. I couldn't say something super low because they don't have to sell it to me. They could wait out the lease. They could wait out the lease agreement or whatever. But they told me, this is what the owners told me. And this is another reason why I couldn't talk about this, because they said there's two owners, right? The one that I always paid my rent to, the one I would call when there was an issue, the one who would call me when he had an issue or question or had to do a walkthrough with the insurance people, whatever. And then there was a partner, and the partner was the one who apparently is like the bigger dog, And he was basically just super pissed off with me. And basically, the owner told me, if you ruin this chance for us to buy this property, we will never sell to you. We will never, don't even ask. We won't sell to you if we lose this buyer because of you. So at that point, I'm like, I don't want to be even more, I don't want to piss them off. And not that, I'm just telling the truth here. I'm not like trying to make anybody look bad. I'm just telling you what I went through. But back then, when I wanted to tell everybody what's going on, why I couldn't do lives and all this thing, I had so much headspace that was occupied by this situation. I couldn't do anything, man. I was just focused on getting the down payment, figuring out my finances so the banks could get me the loan, give the banks everything I needed to get the loan so I could buy this place. You know what I mean? Focus on efficiencies of the company, get rid of all excess expenses, only expenses that we really need, so we could save as much as possible so the banks can know that we're financially good with our money. I was just focused on that. So anyway, once they told me that you can't, if we lose this sale, we'll never sell to you. So, good luck. So at that point, I had to give them what I wanted, which was the sale. I wanted to have a year to buy this place at the price that I agreed to, and they agreed to it. Actually, they were trying to get me to pay $50,000 more than I paid for. So basically, they were wanting $750,000 for the property. I only wanted to pay $700 because that was something that was used early on when they were trying to get me out of here. They were like, "How about if we give you a $50,000 credit, and we could sell it to you for $700? Would you be interested in that?" Something like that. And I was like, "Yes." And then that was the last time they ever mentioned the $700,000. But I remembered it. And so that was what I kept pushing. I never changed from that. I always wanted the 700. They even talked about even selling it for more than that, but I kept pushing for 700. And then finally, that's what we agreed to. And so I had to sign a new lease for a year. I had to sign a 1-year lease from June. So we're already in November, but like in June of 2025, I was supposed to be out of here if I didn't buy this place. But I would have until June to buy the place. So I just felt like it was a win-win for me. Well, not really a win-win, but there was some good that was going to happen if I bought this place, and I had a year to do it. I already had, by the time I signed that in June, I already had over $100K saved up for this property. So I felt like, what, if we go into next year, I'll just probably double that. And then I'll be even stronger financially. Now, here's the caveat, though. They said that if you don't buy it by December of 2024, so this December, then the price would go up to $750. So I had to agree to that. So I agreed to that because, again, I thought if I go into next year, I'm going to have more money, so it'll be fine. But anyway, I signed in June 1st or whatever, the first week of June. I called the bank and I was like, I want this place. I need a loan for this place. Let's get this going. And we started the process in June. But here's the thing. The deadline to buy this place was September, sometime in September. I don't remember what day. But remember, the new owners have to buy the whole block. So it's like a big purchase. You know what I mean? And they had to buy this property as well. And I had to buy it off the new owners. So I did have first right of refusal, but that just meant that I had a year to buy it from whoever bought this place. So if somebody else bought this place, I was able to buy it back as long as it was done by June. So anyway, remember, this new owner had to buy the whole block. So they needed time to get all their money in order, you know what I mean? Because it's a big, giant purchase. So anyway, I was ready with my stuff. My bank was ready to go. But they weren't. There was still some money that was being moved, properties being sold on their end so they can buy this one. And so the deadline passed it was like September or something. So we go into October and my bank is like, "Hey, you just have a couple more weeks before your application expires. So you need to get this done like soon." And I'm telling the new owner, I'm like, "Hey, look, guys, we passed the deadline. I'm ready to go. My bank's ready to go. So if we go into the new year I shouldn't be liable for having to pay the extra $50,000 because I'm ready. And they said, and you know, the new owners, by the way, they're great people, guys. They're awesome. He said, I understand. You're absolutely right. No problem. You got it. So check this out. So we get the place appraised. So the sale price is $700,000 for this place. Guess what? The appraiser comes along and he appraises it for like $600,000. $100,000 less than I've been approved for. And they're not going to lower the price for me. You understand? The people selling this place isn't going to sell it to me for $600,000 just because that's what it's been appraised for. They don't have to sell it to me. Remember that. So I'm stressing out because I've got to come up with the difference in cash plus my deposit. You know what I mean? So my deposit was already $130,000. I've got to come up with another $100,000 to meet this appraisal. You know what I'm saying? So I can get the loan. So it's starting to get really bad for me. And again, this is like, I'm already stressed out of my mind. And then now this is happening. So here's the situation. My backyard of this shop has a back wall, which is like the back of the back property of whoever that is. But anyway, long story short, there was land that wasn't on this property originally, that wasn't attached to this property, even though it was. Nobody told me. When I first moved into the shop, I thought the whole back was mine. I didn't know that some of the back wasn't legally on this property. So anyway, the appraisal came back low, and we tell that to the owner or the new buyer, and we say, look, it appraised for lower. I mean, is there any chance you can add that land to the property so it can appraise for the price that we need so I can buy this place? And dude, guys, they didn't have to do that, and they did it. They gave me, man, I don't know what the size is. I'm just making up a number because I don't really know, but it's probably like 5,000 square feet, maybe less. Somewhere between 2,000 to 5,000 feet. No, I guess it's not that big. It's not that big, but it's significant. It might actually be that big. It's basically, I want to say 15 feet by, I don't know how long that is. Probably 300 feet. So what would that be? 5 times 300, 15,000 square feet? No, that doesn't sound right. Damn it, I don't have a calculator. Anyway, they didn't have to do that, but they did. And when we told the appraiser that, well, first of all, he said, that sounds great, and I'll definitely change the price if that's true, but you're going to need to get that surveyed and recorded by the state. It's not like, okay. So I'm stressing out, I got to do this now. $6,000 later, the surveyor comes out, measures everything, adjusts everything. Remember, the owner owns the whole block, so the lines were kind of skewed already. So he had to organize everything and make sure my property is exactly where it's supposed to be. The property lines matched up. And he added the extra property to it, the extra land. And so that actually worked out for me. It was a stressful situation because, again, now we're $100,000 short to buy the property. The bank's not going to give me more money than it's appraised for. They don't do that. So I'm stressing out. Anyway, I get the property, I get the land. So actually I got more land than originally thought for the same price. Again, thanks to the new owners who were super grateful. And again, they weren't the ones, obviously they wanted me out of here at first, but it wasn't their fault. They were they signed a purchase agreement thinking I was going to be, everybody was on a month to month, and I just wasn't, and nobody told them that, so it's not their fault. But from the start, they have helped me. They have been the mediator. They probably in the back of their mind were wanted me to get out of here, but they were still acting very nice to me, and I do believe that it was genuine. Even still now. I mean, and then when we're trying to buy this place, they gave me the land. So anyway, that got approved. And so I have a new, what do you call it? Lot survey, whatever it's called, with the extra land. So, and then it was time for closing. So we had to wait a little bit, because again, the buyers still needed to get some money in order. And then they actually did go past the deadline, my deadline, but the bank was like, it's so close that we can actually extend this out till the 30th or the 31st, which was 2 days ago. And we signed. So the other bank got everything done, but it didn't go through till like the next day. So we officially closed, even though I signed on the 31st, it wasn't all official because the other property, remember, had to buy this first, then I had to buy it off of them. And that didn't happen until the 1st, so yesterday. So we got it, done deal. That's what happened. That's why I couldn't really talk about my stressful situation. Saying it out loud, it's not that bad. But remember, they did send me an eviction notice. The original owner sent me an eviction notice. I had to fight it. And then they were telling me if they lose this sale, they're never going to sell this property to me. So I couldn't make them even more mad, because then they didn't have to sell to me at all. And all I would have to do is, all they had to do was just wait, a year and a half for me to get out of here. And then I'd be out on the street. You know what I mean? I don't know. So it was kind of like, the whole situation was kind of like having a gun to your head, and basically a gun to your business's head, and you have to save its life. Like, that's the mode I was in. And it was just like, it was actually something that helped me. Looking back now, obviously I don't wish that on anybody. Especially if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have done it, because it was too stressful for me, man. I'm literally so thankful I don't have any gray hairs. I was so stressed. I've never been this stressed in my life. Especially because I couldn't find a place. And it's not like I could just take my trucks and just find any place. I can't even go to my own house with all these trucks. It's like there's too many. There's too much stuff, all the equipment, all the trucks. Where am I going to dump? Where the disposal fees, or the disposals and all this stuff? It's just like, dude, I'm set up here. I can't go anywhere. But, I would have had to. I don't know if my business would have died. I really don't. But it would have been bad. It would have been really bad. So, but I learned more from this whole experience than I did at any mastermind group, any conference I've been to, any one-on-ones with anybody I've done. I've learned so much. Combine the bank's knowledge for what they're looking for me to get the loan, and how I had to change my business to meet those requirements, and save the money, and also cut down expenses. So, the bank's not like you're spending all kinds of money, so I had to be as lean as possible. I had to cut, so much, but it was all done as a team. So some of my team were involved with that, because some of them whether our high salary employees who were basically too big for us to pay anymore, they were so knowledgeable and so good that, believe it or not, that's a real thing. You can actually have employees that are so damn good that they outgrow you. Okay? That happened to me. For sure with one employee, another employee just thought he was the best, and so he went off on his own or whatever. So anyway, it was all good though. All got my blessing to go. For one, I knew I needed them to go. They were too expensive, and I have other people that are waiting for those people to move on, so we can kind of get some more people in there. But because we're at the level that we're at, we don't have to pay like those super high wages. Now, listen, I want to pay something. These guys are going to get that money eventually, but we got to get to other stages of our company now. Like those guys that were too expensive for us at this point got us here. You know what I'm saying? Like now we're here and we're maintaining it. We know what the expectation is. We know how to operate at this level. So now we need to get to this other level here. And once we get there, those guys will probably outgrow us too, you know what I mean? Probably outgrow us. But hopefully at that point, we can maintain everybody and keep paying them what they deserve. And to tell you the truth, those guys that left were getting probably more than they deserve because I'm a loyal guy. I'm grateful. They got us here. I like to see people that get this company to grow to be here. I hate that. I hate knowing that I have great like phone people that used to be here that helped this company get to this level or even levels before us. And now that we're here, I know there's people out there that help this company get to where it's at and they're not here. I don't like that. So I would rather have my people still be here. But at some point, your employees do get kind of too big for you because they know how to deal with customers. They know how to give estimates. They can sell. They're ready to kind of take themselves to the next level, you know, and that's a normal thing. So we're basically at that point where, you know, we have guys that I have guys right now that are probably capable for sure of going off on their own, and they're probably they could probably do it, but their customer service isn't what it needs to be. Their and possibly their English isn't as good as it should be for them to really go off on their own and make the same amount of money or more. They probably don't have those little things yet, but I can see that that's going to happen. And once that happens, they'll either be making a lot more money with us. Hopefully that's the case. But if I can't, they're going to have to go, and then we've got to bring other people up. But again, every time your best people leave, you're now operating at a level that you can handle, right? But to get to that next level, you need people to step up and push through and kind of grow with the company, and that's kind of where we're kind of at right now. But again, we're operating at a level that's pretty normal for us. 2 million is pretty normal for us to operate at. Pretty easy. We do it without trying, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously we try hard, but it's just like a regular day, you know, with those numbers. And we want to get to 3 million. So my point is, got rid of labor costs. So our labor costs went down probably 15 to 20%. I mean, that's crazy. And again, that was just people leaving. So then what the other thing that we did was some of my great workers that are freaking awesome kind of shifted their roles. So handed some stuff off to some new people and took over the other people's jobs. So they're kind of doing a little more than they were, but just at a different, you know, like instead of doing, you know, phone calls, they're now doing estimates, but still doing like their other duties. But it's not like they're adding more without taking anything off. So it's very balanced, but they got more responsibility and now they're making more. So this isn't exactly true, but just for you to think about, it's like they're doing 2 jobs, so they're getting paid a lot more because instead of having to pay 2 people, paying 1, but we can pay them a lot more. But it's not like you're paying 2 people. You know what I mean? And it's not like they're actually doing 2 full jobs. You know what I mean? They're not. They're doing parts of 2 jobs, but hopefully they can balance it out so it's not like overwhelming. You know what I mean? I don't expect anybody to be overwhelmed. I want them to push hard If we've got goals, okay, it's okay to be overwhelmed for a little bit, but that shouldn't be your job all the time. I think it's done in a way that everybody's balanced and everybody's happy because they're making a lot of money. Just like my Mo guys, who, by the way, we're going to start calling crew leaders. Every Mo guy is going to be called a crew leader. I'm going to try and teach my managers and all paperwork to say crew leaders, not Mo Tech, because they're operating on their own, and sometimes they do train people, and when they're training, they are the crew leader, but when they're on their own, they're a leader. And those guys are making more money because I've got one guy mowing instead of two. So I can pay them a lot more, but I'm not paying for two people. Do you know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's kind of what kind of happened this year. Lowered expenses, overhead costs, the fixed expenses, lowered, it took off everything we don't really need, lowered labor costs. The banks were super happy. So I learned a ton from the banks this year, but I also learned a ton because of the worst financial year I've ever had, which was 23. 2023 was the worst financial year I've ever had. And believe it or not, I still owe a shit ton of taxes. A bunch of taxes, man. So that was crazy. And for 2024, we kept up with our taxes for that whole year. So 2024 taxes are pretty much paid for, almost, sort of. We still got some work to do. We still got to buy some trucks to make sure we have the debt or the obligation handled or minimized or manageable. But 23 was really bad financially. It was just a tough year. So when we ended 2023, me and the managers, my management team, kind of came up with this game plan. This was the worst year ever. How do we avoid this? Let's have the best year ever. This is what we need to do. This is what didn't work last year. We tried some things, whatever. We're going to do new things. We're going to do what works, and we're just going to be better. So we had game plans, you know. I basically told all the managers, if the company is profitable, if the company makes at least 20% profit, at least, plus everybody does their job duty, everybody can get we'll all make more money. We'll make all the money that, as long as we're making 20% profit or more, let's pay ourselves as much as possible. And I told my GM, who's really good with numbers, spreadsheets, and she knows all the financials of our sales and how much we make and how much we spend. She's basically a bookkeeper, but she's not my bookkeeper. I told her to give everybody as much money as the company can afford. If we hit our 20% profit and we do the job duties that I laid out for everybody, all my managers, I laid out job descriptions, right? And I said, you guys do that, plus we're 20% profit. Rachel has the authority to give raises as much as we can, so you can make as much money as possible. So here's what ended up happening, right? You can have all the game plans you want, but things changed, right? So it's like you can plan things out, strategize it, but then things, when you're actually in the season, you're going to have to change things, right? So it didn't happen where they can just pay themselves whatever they want, because money is still, the profits are still like, what do you call it? Just tender, you know what I mean? Like, you can't, a truck breaks down, it changes everything, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like we couldn't just give everybody, $10 raises. But everybody did get a raise, and they're all happy. And I know they're happy because they tell me they're happy, and they're just telling me with a smile, and they're really happy. I think there's still some work to do, but that's not with my original team. My original team is very happy. There's some new people who have been getting, in my opinion, good raises and things, but they're new, so it's kind of like, there's still some work that I need from you guys to learn and do and things like that. But they deserve money too, because the company did great and they were part of this year. So I think that everybody deserves more money for sure. But the bonuses have been kicking ass. The bonuses is where they're like, even if I didn't give them any raises, they'd be making more money just because of that. Because I give my management team bonus off the top of our revenue, off the top. So based on that, they're making more money too. So anyway, we between last year having the worst year ever and the banks trying to get a loan for this place this year, the best education I've ever had in business was basically this year. I realized a few things too. I realized that a lot of companies just as because of the price of rent, a lot of companies just can't grow more than 10 trucks. It's almost impossible. And I realized that when I realized I may have to move out of here. And then I started looking around. It's like, dude, I can't afford $10,000. And we're lawn thumbs and I can't afford that. You know what I mean? Like, how's anybody going to afford that? Like, obviously I don't have the best company. I know that. Everybody, like, I have friends who know that I don't have the best company. But it's a pretty strong company. And it's hard for us to pay that. How is somebody trying to grow their company to 10 trucks going to be able to afford that, right? It's like, once you have 5, you can move into a place and have 5 trucks. I think that's pretty standard. You can find space for 3 trucks. Probably most shops that are for service industry. But moving into a place for 10 trucks, that's a big jump, and especially a 15 to 20 truck location, that's even harder. And I think, like, and just me observing, driving around, calling places for leases, looking, talking to friends, going, how much you paying, and this kind of stuff. I think that's one of the factors that most people are never going to get to 10 or more trucks, just because of the fact how much rent or properties cost at this point. So my advice throughout this whole experience is, no matter what size you are right now, you probably need to be getting your finances in order, your credit score up high, and saving a deposit so you can buy a shop as soon as possible, because prices do go up all the time. So the more you're saving, with that in mind, keeping your expenses low, so that when you do say, you know what, hey, if I were to fill out an application for a mortgage for a property, how would that look right now? Because they do go through like an initial step, I guess, before they actually say, yeah, you're okay to apply. And if they look at your numbers and your P&Ls and your balance sheet and how much debt you have, so your debt schedule, if that looks really good, at that point, all you really need is a deposit. And then you got to make sure your company can operate really good. Now, look, I tried buying this place back in June, and I couldn't screw up until this place closed. And it took from June, July, August, September, October. So the last day of October we closed. So that was 5 months. I couldn't make a big purchase. I couldn't buy a truck. I couldn't do anything that the bank was going to say, oh, that puts you over the limit. Like, you're done. We can't get you the loan now. You're gonna have to reapply next year or whatever the hell. So you have to have a business that can basically operate for 6 months without making any big purchases. You have to have a deposit, so you need to save the money up for that, and you have to have your expenses in a way that banks feel comfortable loaning you the money, and like all your debt and credit cards need to be low. Like, it's not easy. So you need to be working on all that, so that when you're ready to buy a shop, or the rug gets pulled up from under you like it did with me, which I still had a lot of work to do. I was not ready, but if I were to give advice, I would tell you to get ready, so that if that ever happened, you're in a better situation than I was. The other thing is, read your leases, guys. Oh my gosh. So when I signed that lease, I didn't even read it. I didn't read it. The only time I ever read it was when the landlord said I sold my property. I sold the property. I'm selling the property to somebody else. That's the first time I looked at it. I didn't even read it when I signed it. You need to, and you know what? You can also negotiate stuff in a lease. So when you're first getting a lease and you read it and you don't like something, like for example, my lease said, I'm not allowed to park on the street, in front of the building, not the regular stalls, but like on the street, in front of the sidewalk kind of thing. You can basically talk with your landlord and say, hey, look, I understand, because here's the thing, they can kick you out if you're doing those things, right? So like for example, they were trying to kick me out. I had to be so careful, because if I would violate anything on my lease, which was like park in front of the street, let the weeds grow in the front yard. Like we actually had in my lease that I had to keep the weeds down and looking good and presentable the whole term of my lease. And if I didn't do that, they could use that as a way to get me out. So when you're signing a new lease, you need to, like, especially if you're growing and you're going to have trucks everywhere, you need to be like, hey, I need to be able to park on the street when needed, you know? Just so that, I mean, those are just little things that I realize if I were to ever sign a new lease or tell somebody that I know or care about to sign a lease, I would say read the whole thing, and anything that you think they can use against you if they ever need to kick you out, you need to negotiate that and just tell them, hey, look, I'm willing to pay, $20 more a month if you take this off. You know what I mean? Just make the lease work for you, and make sure it's in your name. Make sure the lease is in your name or your company's name. That's one thing that wasn't done with my lease, because I took it over another person, and so my company name my name wasn't anywhere. The only place my name was where I signed my name at the end. It said Freddie sign, and that's what I did. It didn't say Lawn Thumbs anywhere. It didn't say at the beginning of the lease. It didn't show my name. So when I'm rereading this lease, and when my lawyer's reading the lease, when my realtor's reading it, my name was nowhere. So they actually thought that the other side had a case to try to get me out of here. But the fact that I was paying rent for all those years with my name on the checks, that kind of, it's like common sense that they knew I was paying the lease. So anyway, guys, that's what's been going on with me, and that's why I haven't been posting, just because I had to be really careful what I said. I didn't want to piss the owners off, so they wouldn't, because they didn't have to sell to me. Sometimes I'd have close friends and family saying, you need to tell them this. You need to go there and tell them this. And I'm like, I hear you, but if I piss them off, they don't have to sell it to me. So I have to just be calm and not say anything, fight this thing through the lawyers. I can't get personal with this. Anyway, when it was all said and done, I talked with the owners, and we both talked to each other civilly. Like, it's all good. It's just business. You know what I mean? They were trying to sell this place. I was a hiccup. I was a problem. They were trying to get me out. They did what they could. I did what I could. The new owner did what they could, and I'm so happy with the new owners. We've talked already many times. There's things they needed from me, like they're going to need from me as their neighbor, and I even signed that I would help them, and they've already helped me. They gave me the extra property land that they did not have to do. They sold me the property. They worked with me every time I needed something. They signed it really fast, because remember, we needed to get the property surveyed, notarized. I needed to have other things done, the environmentals. Everything that they had anything to do with, they signed and were super helpful with me. So I really appreciate them, and I hope that we're all going to be good neighbors for a while, because they own a big chunk of this place. So now I own the property, guys. When I first signed it on Halloween, that was the day we actually signed and everything. But it didn't actually go through because the other company had an issue on their end, the other party. So it closed the next day. But So the next day, which was yesterday, it finally hit me, guys. It hit me. I didn't like. I think I've been dealing with this since for so long that I was able to keep my emotions at check, but it was hitting me. Like I was like, whoa, this is mine. Like the day I signed and I walked out of that office, I wasn't like the shop's mine. I was like, oh, I signed on the property. Okay, finally. Oh, and I knew that I didn't. It wasn't going to be completed until the title company sent me paperwork. You know what I'm saying? So I was still like, still not gonna get too excited. But the next day, when everything went through, and did get paperwork from the title company, and the title company said it's yours, congratulations. That's when it hit me, and that was yesterday, and that's when I started thinking immediately, like it just things started hitting me, like you know what? I want to paint the shop. I want to paint it blue. I want to paint it lawn thumbs blue. I don't know if I'm going to go with the light blue of the trucks or royal blue, but I'm going to paint the building. It's going to be blue. Trust me. And I was thinking, man, I need to, you know, like the toilet in the bathroom, like those seats that when you put down, like it makes that big thump sound. You know what I mean? I was like, I need to change that shit. I own the building now. I need to change that. I want to get a soft laying seat. You know what I mean? So I'm able to like, I really do now think that now I feel that this is my property. And it's just like such a crazy, such a huge thing. To me, it's like it elevated the business. You know what I mean? It's like, and not only did it elevate the business, which I'm sure it adds value to the company for sure. It's already an established company. Now it's got property attached to it. Um, Dude, right? You know what I mean? I'm just like, wow, you know, we did it. You know what's cool though? You guys, like I'm telling you, it's important to buy property. When I was in what was it called? Landscape Summit, the Mike Andes thing back in 20, I guess it was the beginning of 23 in Seattle. It wasn't the one in Kentucky. It was the one that was done earlier that year, and I think it was the beginning of 23. Tommy Mello was there. I'm at the airport, and I meet Tommy Mello at the airport. We hit it off. We share an Uber to the hotel. We sit at the bar for 5 hours, and I'm just taking everything in from Tommy Mello, and his girlfriend at the time, Bree, and we're just talking. And one of the things he said was like he actually was asking me about my business back then. He was like genuinely interested. He was just trying to pick my brain so he can find something useful. You know what I mean? Like anybody, like when I go into any store like Best Buy, I'm like waiting to get inspired by something. You know what I mean? Like so I can apply it either in my life or in my business. You know what I mean? And I think that's what he was doing. He was just getting to know my business, not because he cared about me. Maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know. But I think he genuinely was asking a lot of good questions, and I was asking a lot of questions too. But he really wanted to get to know my business so that he can find a gold nugget somewhere, right? You know what I mean? Like you talk to anybody long enough, you're going to get a gold nugget. And I was getting nuggets all day from that guy, But the fact that he was asking me questions, I was kind of I remember thinking, do I have anything valuable to tell this guy? Because it's Tommy Mello, Well, anyway, he told me once he started asking about my business, like, so do you own or rent your shop? And I was like, I rent. And he's like, you need to buy your shop. You need to talk to your owner. You need to talk to the landowner, the property owner, and figure out what you need to do to buy it off him. Like, that was like his big advice to me in 23. And it turned out, if I would have actually like done that, I probably would have been in a better situation than I ended up happening in 24. So I think there is something there that what I'm saying is like, get your business and finances set up so that if you had to buy a shop, you can, because that's ultimately how you're going to grow grow a lot. Now look, I think a good friend of mine asked me once I called him, I said, hey, we closed on the property. I closed on the property yesterday. Like, dude, this is amazing. He's like, dude, congratulations. And he goes, how big do you think that shop can get you? And I was like, I have thought about that. I want to say it can get us to 4 million comfortably. 5 million, we'd be tight. That's what I think. And I have plans that of things that we can build on the shop that's not going to be cheap, but if I did that, we can comfortably be at 5 million. But right now, we don't really need that. But once we get to 5 million, we got to start looking, or even 4 million, we need to start looking at $1 million shop. You know what I mean? Or $1.5 million shop. Because I think by the time we're at 5 million, this shop will probably be worth $1 million. Because we're, again, in the heart of downtown of a growing city. We're right in the best location, commercially zoned. You can't get commercial properties anymore here in this city. So we're in a good spot. But by then, we need to start doing the process again. Probably, maybe, I don't know. I've got other ideas but that's one thing. If you want to grow, is you got to have a property. I believe you do. Now, because when you go to conferences, I want you to just start asking people like how much they're paying and if they're renting. You're going to see that most people rent and their rents are super high. Okay? Super high. Or they're in a good spot, but or they just moved into a place. That's one thing I noticed too. A lot of friends that are paying super high rents is because they had to get out of their last shop because they outgrew their shop, and now they're paying like these super high rents, and that's struggling. That makes people struggle. So I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I also am like, I don't want to sound like, oh, now that I own a shop, everybody should own a shop. I just feel like I went through hell because I wouldn't have had a place to put all my trucks and all my equipment and have the unloading area that I do now for the debris, and I would have been in a tough spot. And we don't even have all our trucks here. A lot of the trucks are at people's houses because like the sprinkler techs and the fertilizer tech, they take their trucks home. My managers take their trucks home. So really we have about functional, probably 15 trucks parked at the shop. And probably we could probably fit a couple more, but not comfortably. And not many more than that. So anyway, but we're good now. Because even though we have 15 trucks around, I think it might be 16 or 17 that are actually in the shop that are fit comfortably. Really, it's only 10 that are service trucks that are used 100% out of the ones that are parked here, not the ones that get taken home. The ones that are parked here, there's about 10 that are completely full with mow routes or garden cleanup routes or landscaping that are full. So we still have room to grow here. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's what's going on. Let me read some of these. I don't know if some of these people are still here. Bill, thanks. You said congratulations. I appreciate you, man. And Yarderos, I'm sure that's Orban. Yo, broski. Texted Orban this morning. Told him that I bought the shop. And yeah, bro. I think that's you. I think that's you. Jeff, hello. Dr. J-Dub, what's up? And thanks. You said congratulations. I appreciate you, Jamar. Appreciate you, man. Landscapes of America. Good morning, peeps. So yeah, guys, we went over an hour here, and I wanted to, saying it out loud, like that situation didn't sound as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Like as far as like me being mean to the old owners and stuff. At the end of the day, they were doing what they had to do to sell. Probably I would have done the same thing. Probably. I don't know. I like to think that I wouldn't, but business is business. At the end of the day, we've talked since then. We talked before I closed, because I didn't close with them. I closed with the other people that bought it off of him. And we're in good terms. Well, we were. I have no reason to talk to him anymore. I don't need to pay him anymore. Um, so good luck to you. And we don't need to talk anymore. And then the guy that I bought this off of, I technically don't need to talk to him, but we're in great terms, me and him. Um, we're neighbors. They own this now. They own the storage units next to me, and I'll do whatever they need for a while, like for as long as I can, because they've helped me out so much. So we're in good terms. So it all worked out. So that's the thing, guys. As stressful as I was, and I was stressed, guys, especially like, I mean, there was it seemed like once we fixed one hurdle, another hurdle came. And the whole time, my realtor was like, it's going to be all right. I know this is stressful, but this actually could be better for you. So it's good to have people that know what's going on around you, because I always had that to lean on to. It's like I could be stressed, I could be dark, I could be wanting to hide under a bed. But I would remember my realtor said, "Oh, this could actually be better." It's like, okay, well, that's good. Could it be better? It could be worse. But most things that ended up happening, I think everything that ended up happening is for the best. Me having to buy this place made me financially stronger, because I was more aware of what the banks are looking for and how I'm supposed to be more efficient. And then when the appraiser appraised it for $100,000 less, it basically forced me and my realtor to negotiate with the owner for more land, to add more land to the property. Which, yeah, that was stressful because they didn't have to do it, but me and my realtor negotiated with them, and we got it. And then we got it in writing, and then we got it recorded with the state. So it's like, boom, now it's my property. So things actually worked out for the best. And guys, at this point, I feel like I finished my year. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying I'm checking out for this year, because I'm not. We're just now getting started, is what my GM said yesterday. Said we had a toast with Martinelli's here once we closed, and she said Lawn Thumbs 2.0 at this point, and I agree. Couldn't agree more. We're gonna, like, obviously we're now got to be 2.0, because my headspace was so full with this crap. But now that it's gone, I can start focusing on business. And I have so many ideas that we're going to do next year, that I'm going to do as far as my job duties to help with retention and stuff with customers. So we're going to have new kind of missions, I guess, for every department. We'll have new descriptions, new job duties, including me. And I couldn't be more excited to start next year. But I feel like at this point, we've got snow coming, but I'm going to take it easy for the next month, right? I do have to hang Christmas lights, so I'm going to hang Christmas lights starting Monday, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try and be out of the office as much as I can until I'm done hanging Christmas lights, because I just want to get back into the customer service mode. You know what I'm saying? I was in business mode all freaking year. All year. Monitoring, looking at key performance indicators from all the techs. Every tech had a key performance indicator, and I monitored that thing. We actually fired employees because they didn't hit their numbers, and I monitored it every day. Every week I entered the numbers. Every day I try and go there. And when somebody was in the red, I would forward that to the ops manager and say, "Dude, you need to get this guy up or he's out of here." And we kept doing that. And then it was like, dude, we got to get rid of these. We got to get rid of these people that can't hit their numbers. They can't hit their numbers. We're losing money, and we're not being as efficient as we can, and we had to get rid of them. And and guys, that's probably, if you would have told me probably 10, well, for sure 10 years ago, I would have been like, no, that's not the best way to run a business. You gotta be flexible for your employees. They're there for you. But you know what, guys? At the end of the day, this is a business, and you're here to make money. Just like they're here to make money. They're not here to do it for free. If they're not making money, they're out of here. So why can't we think the same thing? It's like, look, we have expenses that we need to pay, and we're giving you the work to do it. So you either need to fulfill your job duty or find another job that's willing to do it your way. But here you have to do it this way, but we're willing to pay you as much as we can. Which, by the way, we have a new, we're going to roll out a new compensation plan for them, for all, I think all our workers. It was going to start off with just the garden and the mow guys. But now it's going to be, I think we're doing that with everybody, including everybody. I don't know if I want to go into it right now. I don't know anybody interested in that right now, or I could just make another live about it some other time. But we're going to be going over, we're going to be changing from performance pay, which, you know, I've been doing performance pay since 21, and it has its benefits for sure. I'm not here to downplay it at all. I'm not here to talk trash about it. I just don't think my employees, and I don't think my employees love it. Okay? And listen, I've been doing it since 21, and I've been doing it as, I think, as best as it can be done, right? Like, I don't know. Again, I'm not here to say, you know, we're doing everything perfectly. We're not perfect. And we have guys that were making $200 a week bonus mowing lawns on top of their wages, sometimes $300. And then we had other guys who were only making $20 extra a week bonus or nothing. And, you know, and I feel like they all tried as best they could, you know? So it's like, yeah, well, you can go faster, but guess what? Honestly, I'm be honest with you here. The faster you go, the less quality you're going to get. It's a fact. You know what I mean? It's a fact. I don't care who you are. The faster you, if somebody takes 20 minutes to mow a lawn that's budgeted for 45 minutes, and somebody that takes 45 minutes to do a job that's budgeted for 45 minutes, it's going to look better. Now, you're going to penalize that worker for doing a better job and actually staying there for the budgeted amount of time. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm not here to like say which side is better. Like, dude, I don't care. Like, I do care. I want quality to be good, and I want my employees to be good. There needs to be a balance, you know, for sure. There needs to be a balance there. You know, I've had guys that were making $300 a week bonus, crushing it, and no customer complaints. And then I had other guys who were doing the same amount in bonus, and I had every other customer complaining. So, you know what I'm saying? And then I had guys that were staying there for the amount of time that they needed, and not that they were looking at their clock or anything, but just literally trying to be the best quality tech they can be, taking longer on the properties, not going over budget, still hitting the green numbers, but not going as fast as the other guys, and not getting a bonus. Like, that doesn't, like, okay, but their hours are more. They made more hourly, okay, but their properties look better. So if you look at it just that way, like on paper, you got tech that's taking all his budget time and not and still in the green, not in the red, getting 40 hours a week and paying them for 40 hours. Or you got guys that are working 25 hours a week on the clock, but you're paying them as if they're working 40 hours a week. But how does that help your company? You know what I'm saying? Like, in that kind of speed, I'm be honest with you, that kind of speed is not sustainable. You know, techs are going to get tired. Techs are going to get resentful because they've now, you know, they're mowing 15 lawns in 5 hours, and They're tired as hell. The other thing is that I've noticed, and this has probably nothing to do with that performance pay, but like when techs are done with their day at 1 o'clock or even 12, but they're making as if they're working 40 hours a week, I think it does something psychologically, just from me noticing, just from me being an observer, and it's being my company, my worker that I notice leaving early every day, but getting their jobs done, but then coming back every day, going back, and me observing, I feel like even though they're making the same amount of money as if they were doing 40 hours a week, psychologically, it's like they don't really have a job. So, and people need to be busy. You know what I'm saying? And you can say, well, give them more houses. Dude, you can't kill people. You know what I mean? You can't give them so much work. And not only that, so they call off or something, you're kind of screwed. You know what I mean? So look, I'm not here to complain about it. It's just something that I noticed, that since I track my numbers every day, the guys that are doing performance pay and killing it are still getting paid the same amount as people that are still hitting their numbers and not going over and not in the red, but taking double the time on each property, and their properties look better because they're taking longer on the properties. I've got good guys. I don't just hire people on the street and say, good luck, have fun. You know, when I do hire somebody who has no experience, I just hired somebody from a fast food restaurant. He trained with somebody for 3 weeks, you know, together. And then it was like, okay, you learned how to use the grandstand, and he used it on a whole shift one day with his trainer. He's ready to go. I train them. When those guys are hitting their numbers, and they're taking long, but they're hitting their numbers, and somebody who's been here for whatever 2 years, and they're knocking them out in 5 hours and getting the same amount of money, but their quality is not as good. Why would? And here's the thing, guys. If every single one of my crew leaders, sorry, it took a long. I was trying to say what I want to start calling them instead of Motex is crew leaders. If every single one of my crew leaders was making $200 bonus a week, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But because it's always 1 or 2 out of 7, like, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Like, and my guys are good. My guys all want to be here. They're basically career guys here, my Mo guys. They love their jobs. And the quality is better when they're here longer. Why not reward them that way? You know what I mean? Like, that's, as a business owner, and to keep retention and customers happy. Because you could say, well, my guys get done in 5 hours too, and they get $200 bonus every week, but they're happy. They're going to be here forever. No, they're not. They're going to get tired of mowing that many lawns a day. And the other thing is, the one thing that nobody talks about is the customers see how fast they do it, and they get resentful. They're like, man, that guy was here for 10 minutes. Like, I'm paying you $60 a week, and he's only here for 10 minutes? Like, trust me, all those things play a part. And it gets ignored when you're being taught this. I sound like I'm against it. And maybe I am. Maybe subconsciously I am against it because I've been doing it for so long, and I know the pros and cons of it. You know what I mean? But here, let me answer a question here. Landscapes of America wants to ask why, which I may have explained it, but I may do a better job. And then Jarmar, hold on, my screen's really dark here. Yeah, workers need to work. We have a 4-day work week, and notice that my best workers get restless. They do. It's true. That's a real thing. They want to be at work. It's too much time off. It's crazy to me, but these guys are built different. It's true. It's true. It's so true. Like, the guys, they want to work. I have talked to my ops manager who brought something up to me. He said that he thinks we should really look into ending the workday at 5 o'clock every day. every day. No matter where they're at, they finish their job at 5 o'clock. Like if they show up to a property at 4:30, or if they show up to a property at 4:59, finish that job, and then come back to the shop. And then whatever jobs didn't get done that day, go to the next day. And I love that idea. I think it would work really well if we had more techs. You know what I mean? So I think like if you're running at capacity, like with a small tight crew, that's kind of hard to do. And maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe that's not a good idea, because you do need to get jobs done, and you got your whole week to, that's full. But I think what we're gonna do is, because I have a plan that we have a plan. We're gonna have 10 mow trucks next year, 6 garden trucks. We already have 4, so for the garden trucks we only need like 2 more, and 2 more workers, maybe 3 for backup. And then we want to have 2 or 3 fertilizer trucks. Remember, this was our first year back doing fertilizing. We're very happy with what we did this year. And we had 1 full truck. So we want to try and have 3, but we know that's hard to do. So I'll be happy if I have a backup fertilizer truck and ready to go next year, which we do have plans for that, by the way. My ops manager is getting his fertilizing license. I don't know if he got it yesterday. He took the test yesterday. I haven't talked to him. But he's also going to do commercial pest control. We're going to get into commercial pest control, not residential. We're not going to do residential pest control. We're going to do commercial pest control. But that's a whole nother topic there. But when we have these trucks filled, so it's going to be my job to get the trucks and get the staff to fill the trucks up. And it's going to be everybody else's job in the office to get the work for those trucks. But if we can fill these 10 mow trucks, 6 garden trucks, we can probably end work days at 4 or 5 o'clock. So whatever job you're at 5 o'clock, it ends, we go to the next day. And again, we track our numbers and all this stuff, because when you know how good your workers are, you can actually start saying, hey, you're capable of more, you can do more. If you can't, maybe this isn't the best place for you. So we have that foundation ready. So I think we're ready to do something like that. So that's kind of going in the works. Landscapes America, we do $100 no BS bonus. It's for those as long as we don't get any complaints, hence no BS. Yeah, so let me tell you what we're going to do. And let me read one more here. That bonus is given every 5 weeks, though. Okay. Cool. Here's what we're going to do. And maybe it is best that I tell you guys first before I blast it out to my workers, because we're still tweaking it. We actually are working on a grid that we're going to check off. We're not going to check off when they don't do something. When they do something basically that pisses us off, right? The managers off or the customers. We're gonna mark it as an X, right? So let's say they're late. Okay. Well, we're not going to be like, oh, you're late, you get a check mark, you get an X immediately. No, it's going to be like, hey, this is a problem. Hey, we're going to talk to you now. Don't be late. If you get late again, you're going to get an X. They have bad quality. They get a customer complaint. They get a bad review. They do poor work. And when my ops manager does a quality check and notices they're doing poor work, they're going to get an X. Things like that. You know what I'm saying? And the stupid X. I'm going to call it a stupid X. You know when your employee kind of thinks they can get away with something, and then when you call them out on it, they go, oh, I didn't know that we were supposed to do that. That's the stupid X. You know you were supposed to do that, and you're trying to play dumb. Like for example, hey, why'd you leave a property without doing the job? Oh, well, I knocked on the door and nobody answered. Well, you know the process of what you're supposed to do when that happens, right? I forget I didn't know we had a process. You're supposed to call your ops manager and he's going to give you the approval to leave. Oh, X. You know what I'm saying? Those things where they just play, where people, I'm sure I do it too, right? Everybody probably does it, but it's a stupid X is what we call it, a stupid X. When you do something, you get called out on something and you play dumb, like you didn't know. We're calling it a stupid X. So we're going to be giving X marks on things, and the employees that don't have any X's for that month, are going to get an automatic 10% raise automatically every month starting April to the end of the year. Forever. Forever. You know, it'll never end as long as they work here. Obviously, everybody right now, because we were on performance pay for so long, all my mow and garden techs, everybody except for sprinkler techs, basically, are pretty much at the same wage. Everybody. So it'll be starting off at a fair playing field. You know what I mean? It'll be starting off fair, and we're going to do this. And anybody that has an X does not get that 10-cent raise, but they're going to get what we're calling a monthly review. So it's like, so basically, at the first day of the month, my general manager is going to update everybody's wage for 10 cents every month, as long as they don't have an X. And the people that have an X, she's not going to do that, and they're going to get called into the office that day and say, hey, we were giving out raises and you didn't get one because you got an X here with this. And maybe by that point they know they got an X. Sorry, I think I got a message. Oh, my phone is doing the live. So at that point they probably know they got an X, because I don't see, we're still working on the system, right? Like, as soon as they get an X, do they know they're going to get an X? Because if they know they're going to get an X, maybe they're going to be a worse employee for the rest of the month because they know they're not getting the raise. Or do we just kind of have it in the office, and if they come in, they can see it themselves, so they can kind of motivate themselves to be like, oh, I still don't have an X, so I'm still kicking ass, you know? I'm still doing great. I don't know, but we're going to, whatever we decide, the managers have to be one unit. You know what I mean? We got to be as one, committed to this thing. You know what I mean? Because it could get out of hand. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't monitor anything, and we're giving everybody a raise every month of 10 cents, and we're still getting like resentful because people aren't coming in on time, but we've never told them, we never gave them an X, we never talked to them about it, we're going to be obligated to give them a 10-cent raise. And when we don't, it's like, you know, you spoiled your kids, and then now they expect it. If we're going to do this, I kind of feel like part of this, something has to be tied with my managers that are keeping track of this as well. But I see those are things that I don't really know what to do yet. But anyway, my management team, the top management teams, especially my payroll officer, loves this idea. She loves it. And when I talk to my managers, they all love it. I feel like there was one that had that mentioned something about it, but obviously there's the winter, and so when we've got the winter pay, like that doesn't. I was thinking, should it still count? See, that's the other thing. Like, our winter basically is December, January, and February, where they don't really work unless it snows. Are we still giving that 10-cent raise out that way? You know what I mean? Like, I was thinking, that's 12 months, so maybe we don't offer it January and February, because those are literally the biggest snow months ever, and most of those snow workers are on what we call like a snow salary, kind of. So they're already getting free money, a little bit of free money. So maybe those 2 months we don't, and if we don't offer it those 2 months, that's 10 months, and that's $1. So it's automatic. Basically, if they hit their 10-cent raise every single month on the months that they qualify for the 10-cent raise, it's $1 raise. So they literally can get $1 raise every year they work here, which is pretty much what we used to do before. But the way we did it before was we had the performance pay, so they had the ability to make, more money than that. But my guys just don't. So maybe right now I'm answering Landscapes of America. Some of my workers, they just don't, what's the good word? Like, they just don't, I wouldn't say understand performance pay, but they just don't, to them, quality is more important than making more money, which just sounds nuts when you say it out loud, but that's pretty much the vibe that some of my guys have. and it's like half the team, more than half the team, would rather um, stay on a property longer than 10 or 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And and I don't want to force people to go faster when they're already hitting numbers. Like that's the other thing. I count my number. I look at the numbers. And guys that are working 40 hours on the clock that aren't making any bonus are hitting their numbers. So why am I like we're making the same, when we're paying out bonus of $200 to our workers, we're we're still making the same amount of profit as we are if somebody's working 40 hours a week. And we're still paying them $200, the performance pay people, we're still paying them more, and we're still making the same amount of money. So that's why I find it confusing, like why we're not rewarding the guys that are hitting the green, but their quality is much better. Again, I don't care who you are. If you've got a team of guys that are getting their 100 jobs done in 5 hours, your whole division is getting your list done in 5 hours, and you've got another company with another division of equally same good employees or better, but they're getting it done, in 10 hours, and you're making the same amount of money. Your quality of the guys that are taking 10 hours overall is going to be better than the guys that got it done in half the time. It just is. It just is. There's no way around that. If your guys are good, right? You can have really bad employees that are taking 10 hours, and a bad employee is a bad employee, right? But let's assume both teams are great employees. One just needs money because damn bookie's after him, so he's hauling ass. The other team just wants the yards to look good, and you're still making the same money because that extra $200 that you're paying your performance paid workers is because you've allocated enough money from each job to pay them as if they were working hours, whereas this other team, you're just paying them their hours, and you're making the same amount of money both sides. But why wouldn't you want your quality to be better? And like I said, if this other team that was getting done in 10 hours everybody would get done in 5 hours, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because your company, your employees wouldn't let you change it. They won't let you change it. They'll say, hell no, I won't work here anymore if we're not doing performance pay. But I've been doing this since 21, so all of 21, all of 22, 23, and 24. So I've been doing performance pay for 4 years, and everybody's going to be relieved when I change it. And I've got badass guys. I've had people, I don't know if anybody on here has done a shop tour at my shop. You see my workers. If you could vouch that I have good workers, do it. Or if you're an employee. But anyway, I just feel like the idea of performance pay is to help the workers, which is great. I'm all for that. But when your workers don't relate to it or accept it as such, is it really still something you should pursue? That's the question. All right, Jamar, let's see. Biggest benefit of performance pay is you basically lock in your employees' cost, regardless of how many hours it takes them. Correct. I get that. You can do percentage, and that's great. Totally true. But that's a benefit of locking in your employees' cost. But if you're losing customers because of quality, or because they're just the customer is just resentful because they looked out the window. They took their little grandkid, picked their grandkid up and looked out the window and said, look, our mow guy's here. Let's watch him mow. And he gets done in 5 minutes. That person holding the baby is going to be like, holy crap. I've just paid $60 and he took 5 minutes to mow the lawn? I don't know if I want to keep paying that. So, and there's this thing, right? Like, you got to have the yellow sheets. If you get bad quality, you go back and do it, whatever. I get it, but I'm just saying, like, it. I think my people, and I know how to do performance pay. You can do percentage or you can do budget hours. People say it's the same. It's not the same. There's a difference. Um, but we know we have every yard size budgeted, and we also change it. So my ops manager, his job is to change, what is it called, KPI, or change. It's got a name. There's a name to it. Workers cost. I don't know. So basically, an, a crew leader calls him up and says, "Hey, I'm at this yard and it's got 20 trees. I've got to trim around, but it's like telling me I've got 25 minutes to finish this yard. Something's wrong." My ops manager says, "Okay, great." So he'll say, "Okay, start now. Go as fast as you can. Seriously, go as fast as you can, and then tell me when you finish." And they'll do that. Or sometimes he'll do that, and then he'll say, "Okay, next time, I'll meet you at the property next week, and we'll go over it together." So then he goes to the property, and then they basically start while he's monitoring, so he can just kind of make sure how long it actually takes to do this job. And sometimes it takes double the time that the job said, and we'll actually change it on the system. And then when we find out what the cost is supposed to be, we call the customer and say, "Hey, look, unfortunately, because of all the trees, it's taking us longer than we were budgeted for that size yard. So this would be the new price if you want us to keep going. If you don't want us to keep going, we're going to count this one free. We're not going to charge you today, but we're not going to be able to do this anymore for you." That's how we handle that. And then we change the price. They always agree to it because we're being fair and honest, and they know most of the time. They understand. So that's part of his job, and then we'll change it. So we keep track of our budget times pretty dang good. And all our budget times are, we don't need to go into that, but that's one thing that we're going to change most likely with the next year, is going to an automatic 10-cent raise every month. And if they don't get the raise, it's a monthly review. They're going to get called into the office and explained why they didn't get it. And we think that doing that is going to help our team just be better, more professional leaders, efficient, do what's asked, and communicate better too. So all those things is what we're going to be working on next year. On top of, so before I end this, I think it's important that you have goals. Okay, so last year my goal was, hold on. Obviously, no, my goal was to buy the shop, but I feel like so we had a 20% profit goal. That was like the end of last year, like around this time, and when it starts getting slow, and we're in the office, and we have more time to talk and kind of strategize for the next year. Our goal was, the company, we need to have 20% profit saved in the bank, not, bought truck with it. It's got to be saved in the bank. And then once we do that, everybody gets a raise. Like, that was our goal. And then the new year came, and then it changed, obviously, because we need to buy the shop, but we still needed that 20% profit to buy the shop. You know what I mean? So we actually hit it. We definitely surpassed our goal, and we bought the shop. So it was great. And we hit our goal. Like, that's the thing. I've had other goals years prior, and they were just unattainable. Make a goal attainable. Now, would buying the shop have been attainable for me? I don't know, but I had a gun to the business's head, and I had to get it done. So it just became reality because we had to do it. But so I'm just saying, do a goal that you can achieve, because then once you achieve it, then you know what you're capable of doing, and then you can push for a stronger goal. You know what I mean? So this year, our goal was 20% profit and buy the shop, right? So basically had to do that to buy the shop, or we had to buy the shop because we also had to make efficiencies and cut costs. But next year, my goal is to be debt-free of equipment and credit cards. That's my goal for next year. That financial goal. Like, I have operational goals, The operational goal is 10 mow trucks, 6 garden trucks, stocked, full, and all that work. And then the 10-cent raise thing. So we have some operational goals that we're definitely working on. I'm talking about you should have a financial goal every year. It's going to be better if you hit those goals, make you feel better. I mean, I feel so happy right now because we hit our goal. So I want to keep that going every year. And I've had goals in the past that just good intentions, but just were too far out of my reach. But I really think this time we can hit them. And I'm not saying debt-free trucks. I think because I'm gonna be buying a bunch of trucks this year, but I want to be debt-free with credit cards and equipment. So meaning the plows, Bobcat, that kind of stuff. Mowers, which I don't have any debt with mowers, but if I did, it needs to be paid off next year if I buy more next year. You know what I mean? So anyway, guys, that's what's going on. I appreciate you all. And I think I answered everybody. Appreciate you all. Good luck. Start getting ready for winter. It's coming.